Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Tuesday. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. Of course, the website at allamericangold.com, and we deal in legal, lawful, constitutional, heck, it's really biblical currency, talking about gold and silver, 25 years. Well, almost. We're almost at 25 years. 24 years and change we've been doing this, and we do it better than anyone. And I'm joined today with Jason Walker. He runs our Colorado office. I'm down here in Phoenix. I asked Jason to join me this morning. Throat's a little scratchy. I'm starting to feel like maybe a little cold coming on, so I asked Jason if he would sit in with me this morning. Jason, how you doing? How's the weather up there? We're going to actually be below 100 degrees allegedly by Friday.
Well, no, we're not warm like that. We're cool. We're 51 degrees this morning here in Johnstown. It's a little less smoke today. In Arizona, I haven't been on the air talking too much about the smoke, but the last month we've had all this smoke, Joe, and it's. I took a couple days off, and I went north into northern Wyoming and into South Dakota. I took a few days off where they don't wear masks and don't care about coronavirus, just to get away from the madness in Colorado. And it was nice to not have smoke. I came back down yesterday, and, man, the smoke is crazy down here. Ash on your car every day, and can't wait till those fires are done.
Now, is that from California, or you guys got your own fires you're dealing with?
In Wyoming, that's on the southern border to the west towards the mountains. They have, I think it's over 150,000-acre fire. And then west of Fort Collins here in Colorado in Larimer County, there's another 150,000 acres burning there. So it's, the sun's red every day, the moon's red every night. It's just sooty. It looks like the California in the 70s and 80s with the big fog that from all the pollution that you used to see in the old days.
Well, I hope they get it under control. We've had a few fires here, not as bad as it could be, but I'm a little worried as the weather starts to get nice. That means more and more people are going to be out and about. And, well, let's face it, people aren't the smartest. You know what we're seeing a lot more is people setting these things on purpose.
That's possible. Seems like a lot of these fires seem to go up and down the highway system, Joe.
And they just setting these things on. I don't get it, but neither here nor there. Let's hope for some rain. I know that we need rain badly here in Arizona. The monsoon season was a total dud this year. Speaking of monsoons, a big hurricane coming. This one, Hurricane Delta. So what happens is when they run out of the alphabet, so they name all the storms A through Z. If there's more than the 26 storms, they go into the Greek alphabet. We're now at Delta is the latest. Most of them, luckily, haven't been that caused that much damage. We've been lucky where they've been landing. There's not a lot of people, or the storms weren't that powerful. This one, another powerful storm. They anticipate it's already a Category 4. It's going to clip the peninsula in Mexico, head to the Gulf, take a right turn, and hit the United States somewhere, whether it's going to be Louisiana or Mississippi, somewhere in that range, and it looks like it's going to be Category 4 type strength. But this storm's not as massive. You've seen some of these storms where they look like they fill up the entire Gulf. This one's a little smaller. It's all going to be about location, right? Like anything, location. Right now, if you're in New York City or San Francisco or anywhere really in California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, right, everybody's getting the heck out of there, and seemingly everybody coming to Phoenix and Denver. Tomorrow, we're going to have James Morgan on. He's our real estate expert in Colorado. He's going to be on from noon to 12:30. Is that right, Jason?
That's correct. Yeah, the open forum at noon
to 12:30 tomorrow. Man, home prices feeling very bubblicious again. When you're talking about Phoenix and Denver, the exact opposite. You go to San Francisco, everything's down 20, 30, 40%. Same thing in New York City. But Phoenix and Denver the other way, bidding wars again. Anything under like $500,000 is now cheap, right? Forget about it. If it's under $200,000, it's an absolute dump in the worst neighborhoods possible. And I don't know how anybody can afford all of this stuff. I've got this horrible feeling that the investors are back. I hope not, because that usually leads to the boom and bust cycle. So we'll have to wait and see. So we'll have James Morgan on. He'll be on tomorrow and kind of give us an update on what can you do if you're buying a house. It's obviously depending on where you live. Depends on whether or not it's a good time to sell. And where we're at in Arizona and Colorado, very, very good time to be a seller. Maybe not the greatest time to be a buyer. When we get back, though, we got a lot of things to talk about. Jay Powell was at one of these rich guy conferences this morning, begging Congress in Washington, D.C. to spend more money, and not just a little bit. Jay Powell asking for a lot of it. We'll talk about that next. 800-951-0592. If I didn't have COVID already and everybody here at the office had it, I probably would have to go home right now. I'm not feeling the greatest. I got to leave, right? Everyone freaking out about the president. Oh, he took his mask off as he stood outside at the White House and waved to people. And it just got me thinking. The same people that were crying about, hey, the children are too heavy, and we got to get them away from the screens and get them more active. They're the same ones that said close all the schools, right? Then everybody online and stare at a screen for 8 hours a day. The same people that, anybody who ever cut down a tree or a blade of grass, what a horrible person you are, and fires burning everywhere, right? The same people that, oh my God, the cows are caught, they're farting too much. It's causing global warming. Everybody eat plants, right? And you got these burgers now that, they taste like beef. They're just loaded with so much crap that you're actually less healthy eating them. But this is the same people that are telling everybody to close down the country. We've never done this before, ever. And I don't know why we're listening to these people. They really have never been right about anything, Jason, and it just drives me insane.
Well, you know what I heard yesterday, as Trump is. He's going home, he gets to go home. He didn't have to spend more than a couple days at the in front of the doctors constantly. And these guys on CNN, ABC, CBS, I thought it was crazy. I mean, you had national newscasters saying, "How dare the president tell us not to be afraid? Everyone needs to be afraid. How dare Trump say not to be afraid?" I couldn't believe it. It's like we're in a wacky world today. It's the wussification of the United States. Is this thing, is it potentially lethal? Obviously. Like everything else in life. The flu can kill you, right? Driving the car could kill you. Walking down the street could kill you. It happens, right? And again, we're getting better at treating this thing, but the whole live in fear thing, and they're winning. This is the problem. I'll give you a great example, and I'll use high school sports here. One of the high schools has had to cancel their next 2 football games. Okay, so we play every Friday night. They had to cancel it. Nobody on the team has COVID.
none of the coaches have COVID, but a teacher at the school, one teacher at the school has it. Shut it all down. Makes absolutely no sense. None of these students at the school, just a teacher, somehow came across it, and next thing you know, we got to shut it all down. It's crazy.
And Joe, it's funny because it's the world's biggest game of cooties, and everybody's acting like everybody else has cooties. I watched a movie in one of the hotels I was in. We were getting ready to go to sleep, my son and my wife and I. And I can't remember the name of the movie, so somebody out there's going to scream. It's a comedy movie, and the guy who plays Hawkeye in the Avengers movies, he's like the main guy. These kids grew up as children playing tag, and they've continued on through their entire life playing tag. Every May, they play tag, and they go into these events where they're trying to tag each other throughout the whole movie during the month of May. And I was looking at that, I was like, yeah, that's COVID-19 right there. Everybody's running and screaming and scared, trying to not get the cooties, Joe. That's what it is.
And I just had this thought. Maybe all of the, we talked about everybody gets a trophy. We stopped playing dodgeball in school. I don't even think tag's allowed. Tag's not allowed because, oh, no, you got to touch people. You can't do that. You can't play that, And somehow the reaction to this, I'll be honest with you. Obviously, I've been affected firsthand. We all know, Eric passed away from it. I got lucky, right? I did. I got lucky, And yesterday I kind of made fun of the pecking order, right? The president's oxygen level was at 93, and he got all the drugs, and of course, I was at 60 on my deathbed before I got them, but at least I got them. But the funny thing about all of this is I love that the president is saying, listen, we can't be afraid. Right? We can't be afraid of this thing. Life goes on. And I just I wish more people felt that way, and we've got to obviously we've got something that seems to work. The president, the treatment for him was the same thing I got, dexamethasone, remdesivir with the plasma. That seems to work. I don't know if it works all the time or not, but we've learned a tremendous amount from when, you think about New York and all the people that died in New York. We didn't know a lot then. We know a lot more now, and I just, the longer this goes on, the more trouble we're going to be in. So Jay Powell's at this Richie Rich conference today. And this is what got me thinking about all this stuff. And so he was calling on Congress to continue aggressive fiscal and monetary stimulus, saying that the economy still has a long way to go. And so really, he talked out of both sides of his mouth. And, first, the recovery, it's been great. Well, if the recovery's been great, then why do we got a long way to go, right? Which one is it? And he said that without aggressive stimulus, will lead to a weak recovery, creating unnecessary hardships for households and businesses, and was asking for Congress to act quickly. Of course, by the way, Pelosi and Mnuchin talked on the phone. And I guess they talked on the phone. I don't understand. Maybe they don't want to see, Mnuchin's been near Trump, so I'm sure Pelosi was like, no way, we can't meet face to face. No deal, by the way, no deal. I guess Nancy hung up the phone. She one of the sticking points is she wants to, give everybody a check, go back to the $600 a week deal. Here's what else he said. This was the big part, though. So I'm not shocked by that, but it was this next sentence. He said, by contrast, when saying, okay, should we spend a little bit of stimulus, no stimulus, right? Kind of like the too hot, too cold, just right. according to Jay Powell, the risk of overdoing it seems for now to be smaller. Even if policy actions ultimately prove to be greater than needed, they will not go to waste. See, you know what? It's fine. Just spend as much as you want.
Yep.
Right? And if we overdid it, don't worry, we won't waste it. Of course, never in the history, even in the last 50 years, and let's face it, no one likes to spend more money than our government. This was one of those stimuluses where there's really no reward. Right? Hey, we're going to spend money, but we're going to build bridges. Right? We're going to work on our highway systems, or we're going to redo our ports, right? Something where, hey, there could be a gain out of it. You look at the Hoover Dam, right? Hey, we got all the electrical power and water reservoirs and all the. Not this time around. This time around, it was just give people money for nothing. And now Jay Powell says we need a lot more of that. He says that and I love it. Hey, if we just send everybody money every month, the recovery will be stronger. I mean, at this point, Jason, why should anybody work? Let's just all not go to work and let the government just send us all a check. What could possibly be wrong with that?
I get the feeling, Joe, that since the so-called recovery from the coronavirus meltdown in the markets in March and April, why do I get the feeling that we'll get Trump elected and then we'll have some sort of market decline next year, and that's when they drop the new stimulus, and maybe it's more like $5 trillion instead of 2 or 3. Why do I get the feeling that's what's going to end up happening?
You know what? I absolutely, whatever we do, whether we do it now, and I've been saying it probably won't be till the election, and it may be something where here's what I guess this is what I think. If the Democrats think that somehow passing some stimulus at the last minute will help Biden, they'll do something. I think right now they're trying to back the president into a corner and get them to accept the 2 whatever trillion they're talking about. But you're right. Listen, that's not enough. It's not enough.
Well, and those politicians are looking at the stock market as their barometer. So as long as the stock market looks like it's okay, they're not going to do anything. But if we get another stock market downturn, all those politicians think, the money that got me elected, I better start passing some stimulus. I better do it now. And that's why we could see $5 trillion next year when there's a market decline.
Yeah, and I think either way, whether it's if they actually waited that long and didn't pass anything until 2021, you're right. Then you start adding trillions. But I think they will anyway. Even if let's just say they do $2 trillion now. That's not enough.
There might be
what happens,
multiple, Joe. There might be
what
multiple.
happens 6 months later? What are we going to do then?
Yep, there'll be another one. I think there'll be multiple stimulus packages that'll just roll through. That's what'll happen.
I was watching an interview this morning, the CEO of Southwest Airlines. They have gotten, we know about a lot of layoffs in the airline industry. Southwest hasn't laid off. Instead, they got the whole company. Everybody took pay cuts at Southwest. But he's saying, the CEO was out on TV this morning saying that may not be enough. They're losing, with the pay cuts, they're losing $17 million a day. Southwest is. So every 10 days, they're losing $170 million. Every 100 days, they lose $1.7 billion. Every 100 days. So every 3 months in a week, Southwest Airlines is losing just under $2 billion a quarter, essentially. And when you look at this, he's saying, and we got to keep the middle seats open, and I don't know how long the recovery is going to take, and if we don't have a vaccine, and then you had Boeing come out today and say the airline industry is going to be impacted by this for the next decade. chopping down the number of planes. Of course, obviously, everyone's been canceling orders. But it's really interesting to think about, just the airlines. They need roughly $25 to $50 billion every 4 to 5 months. Every 4 or 5, let's call it, in 6 months. Now, Southwest got some pay cuts, but 6 months, just, Southwest alone is going to, hey, we need $4 billion, right? And then what does American need? What does United need? What does Delta need, right? You start doing the math, and it just keeps adding up and adding up and adding up. I think sooner or later, someone's got to be like, okay, enough, right? We have to live with, hey, we think we've got the best treatment possible. People get the flu and die. People are going to get this and die. When are we going to go back to work? That's my question, Jason. When are we going to go back to work? And instead, all we get from the mainstream media is fear, 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 fear. And pretty soon, if Jay Powell has his way, hey, forget about $30 trillion, right? We're just going to go right to 40. Why not? Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break.
Yes, ma'am.
800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. And, I'm just thinking about what Jay Powell just said. Hey, you can't overdo it. There's no amount of money that you could spend that would be too much. So what does that really tell you? Because let's face it, who knows better than anybody? Who's really looking at the data? How much trouble is your bank in? How much trouble is my bank in? I don't know. But what Jay Powell said today should scare the crap out of everybody. And it actually did. Dow was up, gold was up. It was going to be a big day. And now they've reversed course the way, gold's down $8. Kind of leads me to believe that the Dow is going to be down pretty significantly because it wasn't positive. Now, it's one of those things. It should be positive for gold. But this is kind of, sell the rumor, buy the news when it comes to gold. It always works that way. Everywhere else it goes the other way, but not gold. But think about this. Why is he saying keep spending and spend a lot? This was almost, Jason, was this a shot at the president in trying to hold the line on spending?
I don't know, Joe. It's, to me, the bankers have a Ponzi scheme. They're always going to want to create more money to make that scheme go longer. I keep going back to this, Joe. There's going to be a big market dump. I think it's next year. And you want to say the right things before so you can say after the fact, well, we tried to stop this before it happened.
Right. So Jay Powell can come out and say, well, I said it, right? I told everybody we got to spend a lot more money.
And, Joe, I didn't get a chance to say it, but before we ended that last segment, you were talking about the airlines. To me, it looks like it's headed towards the government buying the airline industry. That's where it looks like it's going because who owns more failed businesses and can support that than the government? I mean, if Apple or Microsoft or Facebook were not profitable, the government would probably buy them out, just like the healthcare system. So they're not going to buy those companies. Some people are still making money on those companies, but the airlines, they're not going to be profitable. I don't see how you can get out of coronavirus and be profitable for years and years. So nationalized
and there's all
airlines.
Right, and there's all these ramifications that you don't think about. Right, we're talking about human beings losing their jobs or employees all taking pay cuts. But you know what you're not talking about? They don't own the planes. They lease them.
Right.
They lease them. Right? They owe money on them. Who's paying that? Nobody.
It becomes unaffordable, Joe, and then at some point, who can just print the money to pay the bills? That's the government. That's why I see the airlines.
And it's another one. It's another big revenue generator for states. The airlines pay for all the gates that they have at the airports and all these. Right. Then you think about. Then you go to the next one, the rental car business. Right. Because what goes hand in hand with airplanes? Rental cars and hotels. Right. Nobody's traveling. That means, guess what? You're not renting a car. You're not staying in hotels, right? And all of a sudden, the problem gets a lot bigger. And I think this is what Jay Powell's talking about. He goes, hey, you did a good job. You did a good job covering up the first 6 months. But that's over now. Right? The money's gone. And if you don't produce a lot more money, guess what? We're going to go, what do they call the letters they're talking about? Instead of it being a V or a K, right? It's going to be, the W, right? We're gonna go down, bounce up, and back down again, and then to Jason's point, hey, now we got to spend $5, $6, $7, $8 trillion to get it to bounce back up again, and behind the scenes, and again, that's the headline. Jay Powell, the banks are in trouble. That's what I heard today. The banks are in trouble, and if you don't produce more stimulus, that means more bars are going under, more hotels are going under, right? More restaurants are going under, more rental car companies are going under, airlines are going under, more movie theaters. I just told you, Royal, they're the second largest. They're done. All their theaters closed. 30-some thousand jobs in the U.S. AMC says, listen, we've only got months of money left, and then we're done. Right, and so all of these things are what Jay Powell sees it more than anybody, and he doesn't see it. He doesn't care about 11 million people being unemployed or what's the real, really 26 million, 27 million. He doesn't care. He cares about, his job isn't to care about, he cares about the banks. And he already knows. Listen, we said to all the banks, you can't, no more share buybacks. Right? Can't buy back your stock. And by the way, we'll let you know what you can pay out in a dividend. That ought to tell you enough that there's trouble. Now today he's coming out saying, hey, quit arguing with Nancy. Let crazy Nancy have her way. Let's just get 2, 3, 4 trillion. It doesn't matter. You can't spend too much. What else is happening? What else is he worried about? How about the dollar? Yesterday, Stephen Roach was talking about a 35% decline in the dollar in a year. In a year. And I said right on the air, I hope this guy's wrong. I do. And then I worry because, for you guys, if you guys, especially you in Phoenix, if you guys don't listen to Jason and Brian on the Front Range Hour, then you really don't know. Jason's been very, very vigilant on his stance, right? Trump is going to win, and then the crash is going to follow very quickly after Trump wins. And I'm reading into Stephen Roach and what he's talking about, and I'm like, oh, great. Because Jason's, I may be a little nuts, okay? I'll own up to it. I'm a little nuts. Jason's a nut bag compared to me. And it's starting to look like he could be right because something that came out today, Jason, the dollar, the reserve currency of the dollar fell again in the second quarter of 2020. And they said shares of the euro barely rose at all. Shares of the yen dropped. Shares of the dollar dropped the most. Guess which currency had the biggest buildup? No shock to anybody if you listen to me. The Chinese renminbi. Yep. The biggest gainer in all of these. And I think Jay Powell sees that as well. And is like, if this thing goes back in, right, they're going to be dumping dollars like crazy. Who knows? Speaking of the craziest guy in the room, maybe the guy that's right. Patriot Radio News Hour. When we return, we're going to let Jason tell you what he thinks is coming. Welcome back, Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. And I'm going to turn it over to Jason here in a minute, but let you know the special today, U.S. $5 Liberty gold pieces, the fractional, the quarter ounce. I don't know. I'm looking at all of this. There's just no way you can have enough gold. Eric always said you got to have at least an ounce for every year you've been alive. U.S. $5 Liberties, these are the quarter ounce at $575 today at 800-951-0592. Brooke and Arlene are working on all the metal plan shipments. The post office yelled at us again. We'll do our best. We're trying to make the Friday deadline. It's going to be close as the post office once again has asked us to bring less boxes. I got my wife coming in. We're going to hit multiple post offices to try to get there. So if you're waiting for those, they're on their way. By the way, Jason, just so you know, the dollar now only makes up 61% of all the reserve currency in the world. That is right at the lowest levels in the 17 years that I've been doing this. And this was a second quarter number. So my guess is in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, could we see the dollar get into the 50s? That's kind of a whole new era. And if you and Stephen Roach are right, it may not end there, Jason.
No, it'll keep going down. We're going to have an economic shift of some sort coming. I think it's going to take a little longer than this year, but we're going to be an economic meltdown like we've never seen. Joe, I guess I'll go into where I think it's going to go, but the analogy for me is if you haven't seen the Big Short, I know, Joe, you've told people to watch that movie. I think maybe you should watch it again. I think, Joe, you're the Steve Carell character, the guy that just understands that there's a whole lot of economic mess out there, and that he doesn't like all the bad guys out there doing all the bad stuff. I think I'm more like the Brad Pitt character who thinks things are really, really going to get bad, and he's more of.
So what you're saying is you're better looking than me?
No, well, Brad Pitt has this ugly beard. He looks kind of scroungy in that movie, actually. So I wouldn't go there. But Steve Carell is just I think, Joe, I'm waiting here in the future. You're going to have a Steve Carell moment, because if you go to the end of that movie where he's sitting down there with the hedge fund guy, the Asian guy, the real slime bag, that's selling these horrible. Housing packages, onto the unsuspecting investors.
Cerberus Capital.
Yes.
Remember what I told you yesterday? They're out there trying to peddle off all of this worthless crap.
Steve Carell finds out that $50 billion in these investments, there could be, or $50 million in those investments could be $1 billion, or $50 billion could be $1 trillion in actual money on this stuff. And that's when he figures out how broke. He has this look on his face. The whole thing is completely destroyed. I'm waiting for Joe to get to where I'm at, where the whole thing is controlled. You have a Republican in Trump that's going to win the election, because these bankers in these other countries with their central banks, they don't want a Trump, Bush, Reagan type of government. They want a Chinese government, and the Democrats are going to give them that. But they can't crash the market on Joe Biden next year. Because then suddenly Democrats will look like the guys that economically aren't going to fix things. They'll look like the ones causing the problems. They want the Republicans to cause the problems and the Democrats to have the fix, so that we can move faster towards socialism. So Trump will win the election sometime. If they pass a stimulus, let's say late this year, early next year, well, they'll buy themselves like another year maybe before a big crash. But if they don't pass this thing, it'll crash, and then Trump will spend the rest of his second term defending his. That it wasn't his fault, it's somebody else's fault, and who knows where we go to, but it's going to be a huge market crash, and it's just going to be years of the stuff you're talking about, the airlines and these businesses closing down and all this. The dollar, you talked 61% of the world's currency, it'll be in the 40s in a couple of years. It could be less than that, it could be in the 30s, Joe. It'll go way down. They're going to shift this whole thing towards the Bank of China. It's happening right in front of us.
Well, and you think about, I've been spending the last several weeks, we've heard a lot more publicly from our own central bankers, right? The Metzger, the one that I am saying is going to be one of two things. She's either going to replace Jay Powell, or she's going to be the next Treasury Secretary, one or the other. And she gave a big presentation about the digital dollar. Listen, it's not a possibility. It's not a maybe. It's not a, well, we're looking at it. No, it's a foregone conclusion. How about yesterday? The European Central Bank trademarked the digital euro. They trademarked it.
Yep.
What does that tell you? And unfortunately, here's what it tells me. It tells me Jason's probably right, which I hate.
Well, Joe, they have...
I hate it because I want to be right, but you're probably right.
They have trademarks on the coronavirus. Companies own that. That's what's going on in this world, Joe. It is that controlled. It is really... There is no little things out there that aren't controlled. Everything about what's going on in society and these businesses and the banks and the money, they have a hawk's eye on all of it. All of it.
You know what makes me laugh is all these people out there, they just want to put their head in the sand. Right? You know nobody's paying. How can I sit there and tell you, hey, Denver and Phoenix are booming. San Francisco, just rents in San Francisco have fallen 20% in 6 months. Which really means if they're saying 20%, it's probably fallen 40%. New York, you hear it every day, even on the idiot box, CNBC, because they're in New York. It's a ghost town. Nobody is paying rent. I shouldn't say nobody. But 30% of the building, just drive down the street, drive at the mall, go to Desert Ridge. 30 to 40% of the people in there are not paying the rent. You see the article about Las Vegas? People that are renting their apartments and their houses can't pay the rent. What does that mean? That means all the debt behind it is worthless. But yet you keep your money in the bank. See how well that works out for you. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. 800-951-0592. And again, it doesn't matter. Say Jason's right. Trump wins, and then they deliberately wreck it on him. So they can blame the Republicans, so we can enter into a new socialism-type era, bring in the digital dollar, right, all of it. Boy, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because I keep saying, we don't, I'm saying, hey, we got 10 years at best, but I'm more like, hey, we really only got like 5. So the Republicans, hey, 4 more years takes you to 2024, and then the whole thing with Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all this stuff, and ushering in the digital dollar, and the economy's wrecked, and all of these things, and that is very, very plausible. And to Jason's point, listen, it's already pre-planned. And I say that all the time. We just try to figure it out. The bankers already know. They've already done the work. It's already happened. We just don't know it yet. But did I appeal to you on a more common sense basis? You know I'm right. You know they're not paying. You know the loans that they have are worthless. And they're trying to cover it up. And the Fed's, backstopping. The only reason why they're creating a huge housing bubble, the Fed now owns over a third of all the mortgages in the entire United States. That doesn't scare the hell out of people. Why do they own them? Because nobody really wants them. The banks don't want to touch a mortgage with a 10-foot pole. Because they already know. And look at what's happening again, a bubble again, and they create them over and over and over and over again. And having something not in the system, not in the stock market, not in your 401k, not in your IRA, something a hedge against the dollar. Listen, the rest of the world's turning their back.
Yep.
I mean, the dollar used to make up 85% of all the reserves in the entire world. It's down to 60 and falling.
And Joe, when we lose the world reserve currency status, which is coming, just look at Japan. That's really where we're headed. We'll be Japan. Japan. The government owns like 80% of the stock market there, right? Something like that. Yeah,
they own it all right. It's all one big Ponzi scheme, and that's why Japan never does. Interest rates are zero, negative. All of those things. It's not a growing economy. Nobody even talks about Japan anymore, right? That's exactly what kind of happens. They drowned in their own debt.
They don't have the world. Hey, Joe, they don't have the world reserve currency. They can't float it to everybody else.
We got away with it because of that, right? We got away with it because of that, but that's slowly but surely now coming to an end. Bretton Woods is over. China's a reserve currency now. I mean, it's already the hand has already been dealt. We're just learning what the cards are. Make sure that you have your wealth protected before it happens. And that's where we come in. 800-951-0592. U.S. $5 Liberties at $575 a piece today. Take the time, put them away, add it to your portfolio. Remember the rule of thumb here. You need an ounce for every year you've been alive. You need an ounce for every year your wife's been alive, every year your kids have been alive, every year your grandkids have been alive. That's the goal. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. Everybody take care. God bless everybody, and we'll be back tomorrow.